The controller had told us that these objects have been observed for over 2 weeks, coming down from over 80,000 feet, rapidly descending to 20,000 feet, hanging out for hours, and then going straight back up. For those who don't realize, above 80,000 feet is space.
Is there a correlation between any of the characteristics of these UAPs, UFOs?
What we tend to see are the smaller vehicles tend to be, think of a sports car. The large ones tend to be, not always, but almost exclusively either triangular shape or boomerang shape.
Werewolves? I see dead people walking around like they don't see each other. They only see what they want to see. They don't know they're dead.
The UFO, UAP community was fairly surprised. Shocked might be a better word.
If you believe we have crashed craft, stated earlier, do we have the bodies of the pilots who piloted this craft?
Biologics came to some of these recoveries.
Were they, I guess, human or non-human biologics?
Non-human.
Do you think there is life on other planets?
Well, I'm not quite sure, but I suppose there would be.
I've seen a flying saucer.
You've seen one?
Yes, definitely. At Lane Cove.
When was it?
1953.
You don't think this is a figment of your imagination?
Several other people with me saw it.
There is now a new UFO whistleblower with some major bombshell level statements.
There is very compelling evidence that we may not be alone.
This episode is brought to you by some amazing people. Patrick O'Leary, Marcel Gouffonian Metalhead, Nutslap, Tabin Rice. Welcome to the show. Living Life Consciously with Hello Allie, Gemini Moon, Space Baby, Mythoclast, Ray B, Gene G-Force Star, Moody Mongol, Lisa B, Fur 3 Norm, Grey Wolf, and Joanne, Shelley Montgomery, Aaron's Energy 313, Multifaceted Jules, Eric Booth, The Diz Loki, Nathan from the Quantum Show, Gary T, T-Bone, Richard and Fern Harrison, Eddie Tab, Mecca Mickey, Diane Boss, and Jeanette Angel. And a special thank you to all of our subscribers on YouTube, Spotify, and now on Rumble. If you wish to support the podcast, you can hit that join button below to become an Eyes to That Sky member. Or if you want to join the Patreon or to provide other support, the links are below in the show description. But now, on with the show. Welcome to the Michigan UFO Sightings and Paranormal Encounters podcast, where we explore the unexplained and mysterious phenomena that have occurred throughout the state of Michigan and beyond.
From UFO sightings to ghostly encounters, we delve deep into the stories, the evidence, and the theories behind these strange events.
We are your hosts. I'm Michelle.
And I'm Wayne.
We are an educator duo that after an encounter with a triangular UFO in 2018 in Michigan, we decided to investigate UFOs and the paranormal. In this podcast, we will be speaking with eyewitnesses, experts, and researchers to uncover the truth about some of the most intriguing cases of paranormal activity in and around Michigan.
Our goal is not to convince anyone of the existence of these phenomena, but rather to provide a platform for discussion and exploration. So, buckle up and join us on this journey down the paranormal rabbit hole.
On an escalator.
All right. Hey, everybody. What is going on? This is an emergency breaking news story about what is going on with all of this stuff with these Giza pyramids. So hopefully we can talk a little bit about this, straighten some things out, put in a good timeline as to when all this stuff was happening and going on, and let you make your own conclusions about what's going on. But it's definitely some exciting times, and hopefully I can give you guys a little bit of a different perspective as to what's going on. But with that being said, let's do this. All right, that's right. That's breaking news. So what is going on here? The internet is all abuzz because, well, the mainstream media, at least in the Western countries and at least over here in the US, seems to be taking a blind eye to everything that has been released within the last about week of some massive disclosure that has gone on with the Giza Plateau and the second pyramid known as Khafre, and then the third pyramid known as the Great Pyramid of Giza, or Khufu's pyramid. So we're going to try to get all that straightened out, and it's hard for me not to get too excited about this because Egypt, like for many of us, has been kind of a calling, a wanting to know what in the hell these buildings were, how were they built, all of that good stuff. And so I'm going to break it down to the best of my ability and what I've seen. Now, just so you guys know, a former guest of ours and a friend of the podcast from across the pond over in the UK, Johanna James, has been speaking about this quite a bit. So I encourage you to go and check her out and see her videos. She also did an interview with a gentleman that we have reached out to, and we're going to try to get him on here as well. His name is Trevor, and he's been over there investigating for many years. I think he said since 2006 he's been over there investigating, and nobody really knows who he is, but he's got a couple partners that he's been working with and keeping things very on the down low. And what I mean by that is that they have found all kinds of tunnels and things and infrastructure that leads from the northern side, and this is all underground, these underground networks. They're all connecting to all of the pyramids and all of that. So we're going to talk about that, and I think it's important because this very possibly could change everything that we know about human history. And we're going to find out just how much modern history within the last couple hundred years has been basically lying to the human race about our origins and things like that, and who built the pyramids and when they were built. And I'll talk more about that as we get to the end. So one of the first things, though, that I want to talk about is the original paper that started kicking all of this stuff off. And so I'm going to show that to you guys here. Okay. So what started all this is this interesting piece of technology, and it's called, I'm going to move this over so it's easier for me to read. And sorry if I see you guys in chat. If I don't say anything, just know that I see you there. Michelle's working the chat in the background. So thank you for joining us tonight or this afternoon in this impromptu live stream, but I figured this was important to get out. So in 2022, this paper was submitted to the MDPI, and this was back on the 30th of August 2022. It was accepted on the 12th of October 2022, and then published on the 19th of October 2022. And as you can see here, the article is called Synthetic Aperture Radar Doppler Tomography Reveals Details of Undiscovered High-Resolution Internal Structures or Structure of the Great Pyramid of Giza. Now that's a mouthful, right? And everybody yells about our name being the Michigan UFO Sightings and Paranormal Encounters podcast. But at least ours has some rhythm to it. And you can see that this is really a very technical document that was conducted by two people, Filippo Biondi and Corrado Malenga, it looks like. And they are a couple of Italian researchers that use something called SAR and then DT, which is synthetic aperture radar Doppler tomography. What is that? It is ground penetrating radar from a satellite that can literally go through all kinds of structures and deep underground by using non-invasive technology, right? And let me blow this up a little bit so you guys can see all this. There we go. So it uses technology like ground penetrating radar, but from a satellite. So you don't even need to be on site. You just need a satellite to pass over. These sound waves, these radio waves, penetrate the pyramids, the ground, all the surrounding area, and can create images. Now, one of the cool things is that somebody, I think it was Filippo Biondi, created a piece of software that could take the returns from the radar radiation bounce backs and turn that into three-dimensional images. We do that today with many different things. One of the ones that probably everybody's familiar with that will watch this or is watching now is LiDAR. LiDAR can scan an area, identify trees and grounds and all this stuff, and then with a piece of software, you can remove those things so you can have a clear view of the ground, and you can find structures like hidden walls, stuff just slightly below the ground level. I mean, it's really incredible technology where we're at. So one of the things I want to do is just read you guys the abstract from this paper. And now notice this is talking about the internal structure of the Great Pyramid of Giza. So now there's been confusion about some of these images and what was released recently and all that. So we'll get into that. But this all started in 2022. It says a problem with SAR, okay, is that due to the poor penetration action of electromagnetic waves inside solid bodies, the capability to observe inside distributed targets is precluded. Okay, what does that mean? It just means that solid bodies, they have a hard time distinguishing what's going on. All right, under these conditions, imaging action is provided only on the surface of distributed targets. So the present work describes an imaging method based on the analysis of micro movements on the Khufu pyramid, which is the Great Pyramid, all right, which are usually generated by background seismic waves. And that seismic waves is going to take a little important turn here as we get toward the end. The obtained results prove to be very promising as high resolution full 3D tomographic oh my God. So of course my phone's going off, right? Like I said, this is impromptu and not practiced. So the 3D tomographic imaging of the pyramid's interior and subsurface was achieved. Khufu becomes transparent when observed in the micro movement domain. Based on this novelty, we have completely reconstructed internal objects, observing and measuring structures that have never been discovered before. The experimental results are estimated by processing series of SAR images from the second generation Italian Cosmos SkyMed satellite system, demonstrating the effectiveness of the proposed method. All right, so they're just giving you the background. We're using Italian satellites. We're doing ground penetrating radar on the pyramids. All right, that kicked everything off. So that got a lot of people excited. I'm going to scroll down through all of this because we don't need to read all of this. I mean, if you want to get really technical, you can, and you can find it on their website. Just search it up. Lots of words, lots of words. So here's the Giza Plateau. Here's some cross sections and drawings. You guys are all very familiar with this. All right. Now here is what is returned. These are the tomographic imaging, okay, that is returned in the magnitudes, right? And it's looking for vibrations, and that, you know, the vibrations of the air molecules basically is what they can map. If there's an open space, it's going to vibrate that area. If there's nothing there, if it's just solid, it will not. So we're going to go through this just really fast. This is all a description of how all of this stuff works. And they do a great job. So people that want to poo-poo their research and everything, yeah, they're going to have to know all of this stuff. So here you go. So this is a quick look at the SAR result. All of this material here is the plateau. All right, pretty cool stuff. But I'm going to get into what's really causing all the scuttlebutt here in just 1 minute. So this is what the original paper in 2022 looked like. All right. Now, this is, as you can see, this here is a three-dimensional reconstruction of the Pyramid of Khufu. All right. And so that is the interpretation of the tomograms estimated through radar ultrasound. So this is all the open areas that it's measuring within the pyramid. All right. Now, don't get that confused with what you see that's out there right now. And here, again, more overlays. All right. So there's a whole different set of images that's out there that's really messing people up, including myself, which is like really crazy what they have going on. All right. So I'm going to close this out. All right. Now, that was 2022. The researchers have switched their focus to Khafre. So let me show you what was put out on a Facebook post and told by Trevor. I think, I can't remember his last name. But anyways, I'll have information for you guys on all that later in the show description. But let me share this with you. Right, where is it? This is it right here. Okay. This is called the Khafre project, and this is what was released at a seminar, I believe, on the 15th in Italy. So this is what this talks about. So this was just recently, all right, 2025. This abstract summarizes the key points of our research, which aim to clarify the possible hidden structures inside the second pyramid of the Giza Plateau, known as the Khafre Pyramid. All right, so first of all, the 2022 paper focused on Khufu, the Great Pyramid, okay? They shift and they have taken data from the Khafre scans now, all right, which was all done at the same time. Right? You just have blankets of data. Now they're focusing on this section of data. This research was conducted using non-invasive techniques based on publicly available synthetic aperture radar SAR data provided as open source by Capella Space and Umbra. Those are the Italian space companies and the radar. I believe Umbra is the company that created the ground penetrating radar. All right, so what do they go on? And there you can see what I just showed you, right? The original paper and research that started in 2022. Okay. But then there's this book by the same people that wrote this paper. This book was written after they published all of this work. Okay. So this is what they go on to say. Our study was inspired by previous research conducted, described, and published by Filippo Biondini, or Biondini, I don't know, and Corrado Malanga. That research focused on analyzing the internal structure of the Pyramid of Khafre, led to the publication of a book and scientific paper. It revealed numerous internal structures within the first pyramid of the Giza plateau, uncovering the presence of rooms and corridors both above and below ground level. This research utilizes SAR technology, which for the first time employed an, hold on. So anyways, there's the book, and you can see some of those images there. An innovative and original software developed by Filippo Biondi. Okay. This software allowed the transformation of radar electromagnetic signal into phonemic information capable of detecting millimetric displacements of vibrating structures inside the analyzed structures that had remained completely invisible until then. The tomographic images obtained through this methodology led to the construction of a model of the Pyramid of Khufu, which we present 4 reconstructions below. Okay. These images are of Khufu, the Great Pyramid, not Khafre, not the second one. Okay. So let's zoom in a little bit and we can look at this. What I really want you guys to focus on, I know there's the King's Chamber, and you can see these different types of structures that are in there we don't know, but look at right below the surface. Right here. Right there. You see that? Under the base of the pyramid. Look at the pattern. Look at what you see. And we're going to revisit that in just a minute. All right. So there. All right. King's Chamber up here. Queen's Chamber right there. Okay. All right. Hopefully everybody's with me so far. So that was the first step that they did. They took all the data from those scans and they turned it into these images, which is Khufu's pyramid. Khufu. Okay. The Great Pyramid. Second step, in the second phase of our research, we decided to focus the radar analysis on the second most important pyramid of the Giza plateau, the Pyramid of Khafre. Okay, so now they're looking at the second pyramid. This pyramid provided a wealth of data regarding previously unknown internal structures. The tomographic images obtained from the satellite data processing immediately highlighted the presence of 5 structures located at the center of the pyramid. Above Belzoni's chamber, which contains a presumed sarcophagus mistakenly believed to be the pharaoh's tomb. Okay, so now we've switched pyramids. This is what the data looks like, all right? They go on to say these structures share the same shape as the so-called Z structure found inside the Pyramid of Khufu. And you can kind of see right here in the middle, these angles. That's what they're going to talk about. Above the ceiling of the so-called pharaoh's or king's chamber. The 5 Zs appear to be connected by geometric pathways, and alongside these structures, additional secondary structures are visible from various satellite images or angles, as shown in some of the tomographic images below. The analysis of these data, obtained using entirely non-invasive techniques, are briefly summarized below. These findings allowed us to construct a 3D model of the entire complex. The examination of dozens of tomographic images obtained from different angles using Capella space and Umbra radars enabled the 3D reconstruction of most of the objects inside the Pyramid of Khafre. Below, we present some images from our 3D analysis. So here you go. That's the radar returns. That's what it looks like. And then it says analysis of the structures above Belzoni's chamber. Intensely colored spots can be observed appearing in all tomographic images taken from different angles corresponding to internal artificial structures. These right here. You can see all that, right? Okay, let's continue. Moving on, take notes. So as we zoom in again on this, we see improvement of signal to noise ratio reveals the internal structure of the 5 Zs, consisting of 5 horizontal levels and a sloping roof. Right there, you can see the slopes here. Goes up this way, here, here, here. So that's what they're seeing, right? And then these solid images, which then gives you this tomography with another cross-sectional line showing the presence of vertical structures located. So these are the 5 Zs that they're talking about. It's like the king's chamber with the 5 layers, okay? These right here. When you interpret that data using special software, this is what these things look like. All right, it's pretty intense, and I'm sure there's some room for error, and everybody's going to jump on, well, how do you get that from that? Well, they've proven this software in the past that they can read radar images and create 3D images like what you see there from that stuff. Those returns. Okay. So let's see what they go on to say. As observed in the 3D model below the ground level, ground zero of the main structure, and we're still talking about Khafre, vertically aligned cylindrical structures extend for hundreds of meters beneath the Giza plateau. Hundreds of meters. Okay. You want to know exactly how far? Notably, 8 of these structures arranged in 2 parallel rows from north to south descend to a depth of 648 meters. Now, Michelle's sitting over here, and I looked at those numbers, and I looked at Michelle, and I said, holy crap. Add them together, Michelle. 6 plus 4 plus 8. 18. She says 18, and 1 and 8 is 9. Numerology. So it says merging into 2. Now this is bizarre. They merge into 2 large cubic structures measuring approximately 80 meters per side. These features are illustrated in the tomographic images and 3D models presented below. So obviously they've had some formatting issues with their images, but let's take a quick look. So here we go. So this is one image, and you can see these 8 cylindrical tubes, and I'm using tubes because as a spoiler, they're saying that these things are hollow. There you go. right? There's your 5 Zs. Look at how they're positioned. 2, then 1 in the middle, then 2 this way as well. This would be probably to the north or south. I don't think they give us a compass rose here. No, they don't. But it goes 2, 1, and then 2. Directly in the middle of the pyramid, right? Above these 8 tubes. This is crazy stuff, you guys. This is insane. Yeah, hundreds of meters, sir. I see Nanes here with us. 648 meters. Does anybody know what that is in feet? Let's ask the Googles real quick. 648 meters. I already know the answer to this. 2 feet. Are you ready? That is 2,125.98 feet. 2,125.98 feet. That's how long, at least this is what the radar is saying. That's how deep those things go. Just the tubes. What would inspire them into building structures 100 of meters below a pyramid? That's a great question, man. That's a great question. Neen in chat. Yeah, you're talking like 2,100 feet. 2,125.98. So 2,126 feet. Almost exactly that number. Under the pyramid. Huh? That's what makes us so crazy, right? Okay. Let's see what else, what other kind of craziness we have here. And here we go. The cylindrical structures identified in the tomographic images appear as vertical wells, hollow inside, surrounded by descending spiral pathways. There you go. Hollow wells. Amazing. I mean, it's crazy. All right, let's go on and read their third step. Third step, the next phase involved analyzing the tomographic data to determine the full extent of the underground structures beneath the Giza plateau. The tomographic images clearly reveal that structures exist beneath the plateau, extending below the pyramids of Khafre, Khufu, and Menkaure for approximately 2 kilometers beneath ground zero. That's okay. So 1,000 meters is a kilometer. That is insane, right? As seen in the tomographic data, which places the pyramid of Khafre at the center, with Khufu's shadow on the right and Menkaure's in the upper left, these structures form a vast area of non-natural constructions following complex geometries. In the fourth step of our investigation, these structures will be further analyzed with the possibility of excavation to verify the artificial, I don't know if I have the next one, the artificial nature of the structures we have identified. And the shadows, by the way, they're talking about are here. All of this. So these are under all the pyramids. This and these structures right here are 80 meters aside square. Now this is what's got everybody, including myself, kind of going nuts right now. Because if this stuff turns out to be true, you cannot say that this was all done with hammers and chisels. Right? Now, yeah, we're going to talk about that, Tony Ann. I see you put sinking in chat. I think that could be a possibility. All right. And then this is just a panoramic or a panoramic south-north view of the Giza Plateau. And these are the returns that they get, right, as they scan. You can see, look at all those areas. Those are all underground chambers and passageways, right? And with a tomographic line cutting through the Khafre structure at approximately half its height. The darker central line corresponds to the edges of the Khafre pyramid, northeast, southwest. So right there. Which have low vibrational content and therefore appear dark. The various bright spots beneath the pyramids represent artificial structures located approximately 2 kilometers below the pyramid plateau. All of these, the light colored ones. All of that. It's a huge underground city. All right. And then it says here, note, this abstract is released exclusively for journalists interested in attending the press conference on March 16th of 2025, where these discoveries will be extensively discussed and presented with supporting evidence. And there hasn't been much of anything except for people like me and the alternative media and Michelle and Johanna James. And I saw that Jimmy from Bright Insight has released something. Okay. So, and there you go. There are the main researchers right there, March 2025. So all of this was put together as a press release for this, for journalists that will be, attending this conference on March 16th in Italy. So, wow. All right. That is kind of the time frame and the alignment of how all of this stuff is going on. Now, one of the pictures, the very first one, these here, let me present this to you. I told you guys I want you to focus a little bit on this here. This is, again, this is the Great Pyramid. This is Khufu's pyramid, quote unquote. Okay. These structures right here, you see those? I know some of you already know where I'm going with this. All right. Look at the distribution of those chambers. And this is how I know. I think this ground penetrating radar, or the SAR, is really accurate, because if they found that, we already know that pattern. Number one, it doesn't exist in nature. And number two, we already know that. We already know what that looks like. Are you ready? You guys are ready. Here you go. Take a look at this map. Look at this. Just let that sink in for a minute. This is about 15 miles or 20 some kilometers to the southwest of the Giza Plateau. This is a little place called the Serapeum, where all those beautiful, highly polished, strangely shaped giant black boxes are kept, and people don't even know how they moved them through the hallways. Right here. They say they're Apis bull coffins, sarcophagi, because they found some dead bull remains in some of them, but most of them were empty. But if you look at this, it's pretty apparent that there was something going on, and there's more of these underneath this as well in the Serapeum. But whatever these black boxes were for, they did not want them lining up directly across from each other, which makes me think something more polarity related, some type of battery, something along those lines. All right. So that's your Serapeum. Now, if we look at a map of the Giza Plateau, just so you guys have your bearings for a minute and you know what's going on here. If I zoom in on this, here's the, everybody says the pyramids are aligned with, Orion's belt. And yeah, pretty much is the case. But if we take a look here, you can see here is the Great Pyramid of Khufu. Here's the Pyramid of Khafre, and then there's Menkaure. All right. And these are the causeways and things like that. And notice how they label these funerary temples, right? The Pyramid of the Queens. Where's the one? Oh, the cemeteries, Eastern Cemetery, Western cemeteries, right? Now, keep going to the southwest about 25 kilometers or about 15 miles this way. Wait a minute. I can't tell. I'm pretty sure north is up here. I'm not 100% sure now that I look at this, because that is such low resolution. It's hard to tell where north, south, east, or west is. But anyways, if you go to the southwest from the Giza Plateau, about 15 miles, you find those black boxes in the Serapeum. So that's what all the hubbub's about right now. Right? And it's good hubbub. It's good stuff. So I did find some high resolution images that I want to show you guys. This comes right from those three scientists. And so that you can get a really good look at these images. So here you go. Right. Again, this is Khafre. All right. This makes me think of oil rigs, modern day oil rigs, guys. They're saying those are hollow. So are they huge drills? Or are they support structures? I mean, honestly, Michelle and I were throwing some ideas around, and she mentioned something to do with earthquakes. And now what's really interesting about earthquakes, and since they talked a little bit about seismic waves, let's do a quick recap of your 9th grade earth science stuff when it comes to earthquakes. When earthquakes happen, they release two wave types, seismic wave types, a P wave or a primary wave, also known as a compression wave. And then following behind that a little bit slower is the S wave or the secondary, also known as a shear wave. Okay. The primary wave is that first initial rumble, and probably what dogs and stuff can pick up on, because primary waves can travel through liquids, solids, and gases. So the primary wave can actually vibrate the air molecules, and that's probably what animals are picking up on first, right? Damage-wise, not a big deal because it's a compression wave. So the particles inside the seismic primary wave are being compressed and released. So they move in the direction that the wave is going, okay? The problem is when the slower secondary wave shows up. The slower secondary wave has the movement of the particles in perpendicular directions to the direction of the wave. So if the wave is moving straight ahead, the energy of the seismic wave, the S wave is moving due north. The particles are moving to the west and the east away from the wave. And they call those shear waves. right? Like a pair of shears. They're moving and going like this, you know, like a pair of scissors. And that causes the ground to either roll or shift side to side, perpendicular to the direction of movement. All right. The thing about secondary waves, and this might be some of those things that you find in the Olmecs, right? The giant stone spheres that they say, oh, those were shot out of volcanoes and cooled off, nice, perfectly rounded giant spheres laying around in the desert or in the jungle and things like that. Here's the thing. Secondary waves do not travel through liquids and gases, only solids. So if you have these huge columns going 2 kilometers, over 2 kilometers underneath the pyramid, like this, in 2 rows, 4 of them spaced out right there, it is possible, and I'm thinking that these were an anti-earthquake type of device to lower the magnitude, the energy of the secondary seismic wave, so that these structures would stay, you know, around for as long as they did. And there is no doubt in my mind that these structures, the pyramids, and probably most of these megalithic structures are absolutely ancient. We are a cargo cult. The Egyptians that lived there, the pharaohs that we know of, they were a cargo cult. They inherited this stuff. This is not their building. There is no way. Hammer and chisels is not going to make this structure and all of those structures you saw in that panoramic view of the Giza plateau, 2 kilometers down, a giant city. There's no way. There's none. So even if some of this stuff turns out not to be what they're saying it could be, all right, they are still not natural. That's the thing. So it still is evidence that they had some very high technology that they were using to develop and build these things. So let's look at some other high resolution images from the authors. Here you go, some different views. I mean, these things on the outside, they say are walkways. I mean, they're coiled around. And again, I look at something like this and I'm thinking, man, is this like an oil rig? Were the pyramids actually, if the ground, and I saw somebody said sink earlier, Tony Ann said sinking. What if, and this is crazy, but what if the pyramids were actually like an antenna on top of, they built these things and the platforms on top of these towers? And it brings to mind the whole story of the Tower of Babel, or Babel, depending on how you pronounce it, whatever region you're in, where they were trying to build these towers to the heavens. These could be like giant Tesla towers. And they do say in some of their paperwork that they think that these were some kind of giant resonator. And I think Chris Dunn had talked about that as well, that they would resonate. So if they're releasing energy, these things could have been, and I know it sounds crazy, but because we're still thinking, it sounds crazy because we're thinking they were not technologically advanced. We're still thinking 5,000 years ago with the ancient Egyptians and their pounding stones and hammer and chisels. I don't think we have that, guys. I don't, regardless. I could be completely off. But what if these were like the towers that they talk about in ancient stories? A free energy system, right? There's another view. And you can see how these Zeds are lined up and how they're all the same, like precise. These structures that we know of as like the, you know, King's Chamber and Queen's Chamber are set up like that. Look at this. This is This is what's got everybody in an uproar. This is when you wake up and you come downstairs and this is like the first thing you see and people releasing videos on it. You're going, what in the actual hell? Right. And then you see what the data is being interpreted like. So amazing stuff, man. This is whatever it was. There's many more questions. And this is what I love about this. Here you go. Here's the 8 cylindrical structures identified in the tomographic images appear as vertical wells. As vertical wells. Hollow insides surrounded by descending spiral pathways. This is amazing. And then there's your structure, your square structures, your 80 by 80. All right. So it's a tomb, guys. It's a tomb. Just remember, pounding stones, copper chisels, and it's a tomb. Nothing to see here. Move along. What in the actual hell, dude? And that's been kind of my catchphrase all day today. This is, zoomed in images of the high res stuff. This is crazy. This is going to change everything one way or the other. It's going to change everything. Our whole history, we've been lied to. And I'm going to say maybe ignorantly lied to, because they're afraid to say that they don't know. So they make up stories that just sound good to keep everybody going instead of pushing. This should be a major worldwide investigation of what is going on here. Period. Stop, So that's everything kind of in the right timeline and a description of everything that's going on. And so I'm going to look over here and pay some attention to chat now and see if there's any questions you guys might have. That I'm not an expert on this, but I've been kind of following and putting together a timeline as to what's going on. So does anybody have anything that they want to add out of chat? As I take a look here. Tabin says it's as much a tomb as it is a silly straw. All right, fair enough, man. Fair enough. Yes. Hey, by the way, everybody, I know this is impromptu and a bonus episode, but don't forget, hit that like, share, and subscribe button. We got super chats too, donations, all that good stuff. You can email us at mi.ufo.podcast@gmail.com, like right there. There you go. And yes, I have put out invites to, let me get his name. So you guys want to look him up. You can find him on YouTube and everything. Let's go with his name is Trevor Grassi, spelled Grassi. So I got an invite out to him, who knows those researchers, the 3 Italian researchers. He is working with them and very close with them. And Johanna James has put stuff out this morning. She interviewed him. So go to her YouTube channel. And that is, what is it? Funny Old, spelled OLDE World. Funny Old World. So, all right, what do we got? I see Marcel Gouffonian is here. Thanks for joining. Tabin's here, of course. We've got, let's see, who else was here? Tony Ann. Nain is here. Haven't seen you in a while. Nain, welcome. Tony Ann. Yeah, so any questions, anything you guys want me to try to clear up or look at something you saw in any of those images before we wrap this up? Yeah, good seeing you, Marcel. Haven't seen you in a bit. Oh yeah, and don't forget you can join. You can join our little thing. Oh, okay. So as I look over here on Rumble, I had somebody go, this is a water pump and remnants of the canal infrastructure built there. All these are part of the entire terraforming powerhouse structure. We have known this for a decade. I said, so who did this and how long ago? Why was terraforming needed? The Anunnaki built them. Us said in the Sumerian tablets. Okay, I think that was a miss. The Egyptians say Thoth of Atlantis, the scribe of Amen, built the pyramids. Inke. Why was terraforming needed? Well, I don't know. The great ice melt and subsequent floods. Much land was unsuitable, sand covered. I don't know. I would go on, but it gets complicated. Anunnaki, there it is. It's the Anunnaki. It's always comes back to the Sumerian tablets and the Anunnaki, right? When was this discovered? 2022, Nain. 2022 was the original project that happened. And they focused on the internal structures of the Great Pyramid. And then they recently have looked at now Khafre, the second pyramid. The second pyramid is the one that still has part of the casing stones at the top. I don't think the Great Pyramid does. So, yeah. Is there like basin under the pyramid as well? Yes, there is a flooded area that, are you ready for it? If you look at images and stuff under the water, you can see it plain as day. There's one of those big black boxes. Yep. Like that you find in the Serapeum. 25 kilometers to the southwest of the Giza Plateau. So those black boxes are everywhere underground. It's gotta be. Yeah. As Michelle says, our Macedonian friends have been watching their news, and over in their country, this is being called the Eureka event. And they think they're going to be finding some kind of technology, or maybe they already have, and we just haven't heard about it yet. It hasn't made it this far. So yeah, so interesting stuff. And that's what you're probably going to hear on the YouTubes and everywhere for a while. Yep. Any speculation about material that built these structures? No, unknown right now. I'm guessing it would probably be bedrock, probably granite, limestone. That's kind of the main materials over there. Probably they know more than what we know. Yeah. Or they want us to know. Yeah, of course. Why do you think they put gates on everything over in Egypt? And by the way, a lot of these tunnels and stuff that are being found by like Trevor Grassi and all of them, yeah, they all lead to under the pyramids, and one of them goes directly into some type of a chamber under the Sphinx. And remember, Casey, the psychic, said that the Hall of Records was under the Sphinx. I think they've got it. I think they found it. Yeah. Yeah, there's no doubt in my mind that they know a lot more that they don't want to tell us about. And my guess is that they probably pay some of these archaeologists or threaten them to not release any of the information. And they probably dribble it out as woo stuff, right? Instead of, so that way it kind of can get easily poo-pooed, but some people follow it. You know what I'm saying? The story goes around for decades that there have been, yes, yeah, yep. Casey saw that in his visions. He would go into his visions and talk about the Hall of Records underneath the Sphinx. Yep. Super curious about bedrock depth. Yeah, me too. We'd have to get some kind of geologic survey, right? And I'm sure they've done that. I mean, it's got to be something solid. It's got to be solid bedrock for those pyramids to sit on top of, or they would just, sink and crack and fall apart. Do they predate the pyramids? The underground structures? They don't know. They have to excavate and see what it actually is. If you look at the law of superpositioning, right? The layers of materials that's underneath the other layers came first. Right? So you cannot build a house up in the air and then build the foundation and then lower the house on top of it. I mean, sometimes you can. Nowadays you can, but so it's kind of like that. I'm assuming that the stuff underground was probably built before the pyramids, or maybe at the same time. This is what I'm talking about. Now we have a lot more questions and we need people digging and we need to get down in there. I mean, here's the thing. How can you deny the technology that they have? Anybody in their right mind, the technology that they had, when you see those vases and they are measured within 1,000th of an inch of thickness, of perfectly level, and they're made out of granite. I mean, you can't do that kind of fine work today. And they found 40,000 of them underneath a pyramid in a chamber. And you guys know what I'm talking about. Those hyper precise different vases that they have. Chris Dunn and I think his son did very close metrology or measurements using space-aged measuring things. It's all on videos. I think Ben Van Kerkwick over there on Uncharted X has the videos where they go through and show you them measuring the preciseness of stone vases like this big. I mean, it's ridiculous, and they're exact. The scoop marks in the rocks, the tubular drills. I mean, how much more evidence do we need? And we still will have Dr. Zahi Hawass running around. It is not hammer and here's a pounding stone. Here you go. This is what they did. And they have people playing with pounding stones, and they're probably laughing all the way to the bank. But I bet you they threaten that guy. You can't say anything. And he might even leak information, right? But talked in codes. And we interpret those codes as the woo factor, right? And it probably is woo. 100,000 years from now, when we're back in the Stone Age and they find a cell phone, right? Some plastic or whatever, what kind of stories are they going to tell about us? All right. See Michelle over here. She's scrolling through Facebook now looking for more material. I think that's my cue. I think we should go. Any other questions? Hopefully I can answer. It's amazing. Were we gods? Well, maybe at one time. Well, I know tomorrow I can tell you guys we're going to have Joshua Shapiro on, and we're going to talk about crystal skulls. And he's going to be talking about the energy and stuff that they're picking up on these crystal skulls that are amazing. And we're going to talk about those tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Eastern. So, yeah, crystal skulls tomorrow. Yep. All right, everybody. I'm going to dart out of here. You guys have a good weekend. Enjoy whatever this turns out to be. I'm sure it's going to be a wild roller coaster for a good couple months as they release more and more data. So, all right, everybody. Well, thanks a lot, Tabin. Let me just pull up who's here right now. Okay, so we got Tabin, Nain, Michelle is here in chat, Marcel Gouffonian Metalhead, Tony Ann was here, So, all right, everybody, have a great night. And remember, I would say keep your eyes to the sky, but now I'm saying keep your eyes over to Egypt. All right, and we'll see you tomorrow.